Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. It's Monday, so guess what? Grumpy is back with the coffee, and I'm assuming you still have the same mug from last week in the same exact spot. Yeah. Oh, different mug,
New
but
coffee.
looks like same coffee. Just pour
4
from
weeks.
one mug
Nope,
to
nope.
the
4
other.
weeks is my cutoff, man. This is a brand new pot of coffee made just about an hour ago.
Alan is with us as always. Good morning, Alan. Yeah, it's Derby Day, getting ready for the game. What do we have here? Like 5 hours to kick off. It'll sneak up on us in no time, but few headlines. I kind of figured like we'll leave the pregame stuff mostly to the pregame show. We'll
Yep.
basically get on air once the lineup comes up, probably usually like half an hour or so before the game kicks in. So a couple of headlines to get to though, and like let's get your like takes and the listeners' takes on this. Okay, the first one is I don't know. This is from the press conference where Klopp, as always, is getting more and more irate with like in these press conferences. You can kind of see that not only I understand. Ellen says your ears look bigger. Yes, new chair. Actually, I am kind of liking this, so because you can do this. But it does feel odd in the beginning. But yes, it is not ears.
You
It's
need to
not
paint it green.
Actually, you know what? That's not a bad idea. That people will really wonder how my big head is floating in midair. But but so is this matter of one thing he says, and I do understand this, and I agree. Where when things were going well, none of us were like, "Who's the doctor? Like, what's going on?" Like we never cared about that stuff. And now that things are going negative, it's a lot of going back and saying, "Oh, this is why." But it's even sounds like sometimes he's looking for answers, but he is not liking the answers that we find or the journalists find for him.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and this is part of what he said too, was they have a job themselves. Their job is to write articles, is to try and piece together different things together. And if you're outside of the club and you don't have a lot of knowledge of what's going on inside the club, you try and make whatever story you can that makes sense to put out there to see what you can write about. And he mentions that he understands that's what journalists are going to do. And I will have to give Klopp a ton of credit for being the guy that's standing there saying, "Hey," or sitting there, whatever, saying, "Hey, come at me. Don't take this out on everyone else. Take this out on me. I am the one that's making the most money, right? I am the one that should be taking all of the heat, because that's what a real leader does." Yeah, there's been times where we have been frustrated that when he blames stuff like the blades of grass or it was a little too wet or whatever the case might be. But in really difficult times, this is a good measure of character of an actual leader, is how do they respond when the people around him are being criticized too. Is he bringing them down with him, or is he trying to build them up and make sure, like, hey, I understand what's being said out there. I don't want you guys to worry about it. This is on me. I want to take care of this. So I think in this moment, I do give Klopp a ton of credit. I think it was a typical Klopp press conference, but he said the right things. And I think when coming away from that, I think that's the most important part, is that he just is a sign of a true leader when he will not allow criticism of the people around him, but rather just him.
And it's almost like a shift, isn't it? Because yeah, we did get a lot more of the like it's too wet, it's too dry, it's too tall, it's too short, like
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. And now it's a bit more of a perhaps he's realizing there are like other issues on hand. It wasn't like a one-off. I think when the team is rolling and you have a bad performance, it is a one-off. Maybe you don't want to go at your players or anything like that. I really don't expect him to kind of like get out and pull a Mourinho and throw somebody under the bus or anything like that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that should happen, like, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is good leadership in that sense. But did it take him too long to get to this mode, you think? And therefore, now he's facing even more criticism because all this time he acted like there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And it's almost, and I'm sure he knew there were some things wrong, but he never like kind of like admitted to them. Then he kind of like kept going with the excuse scenario. So now that he's admitting it, it almost appears like, oh, now you admit there's a problem too. Did he just wait too long to get into this mode?
I think that's a good question, and it can be tough to answer because you can look at it two ways. If you admit it too early on, then you might cause a rift amongst more of the fan base and go, well, if there is such a problem going on, why isn't there anything that's being implemented to try and help it? You know, why do we have these such big problems this early on? Why aren't we doing something about it? Whereas, you know, on the flip side, like now where he waits too long, now we sit back and we look back and go, well, if it's been a problem this long, then I don't think there's not, it's a lose-lose situation. I think ultimately to admit that there was something going on, because you'll have either half of the fan base upset that it happened in the first place, or the other half of the fan base upset that it was happening and nothing was being taken care of. So I think this just got to a point where it boiled over so much, and there were so many names being thrown around for the criticism, that this was kind of just the moment that Klopp just felt this was the time to do it. I mean, he even said himself he went on a long walk, right? I mean, like and if that's something that for him is a way to deal with this and a way to clear his head. And I think that's a good thing moving forward, is that we're able to hear that. We're able to then look at it and go, okay, well, now what? Like, how do we respond from here? You know, City had the investigation come out, and there were a lot of people like, we don't know how they're going to come out to play. Are they going to be dogged? Are they going to be, you know, up for it? Who knows? And they came out ready to play. And I know you have the new manager bounce, you know, the new investigation bounce. Like maybe this is the like the new admission of problem bounce. You know, maybe this is what is needed. And it'd be nice to see.
I think so too. It's almost like, but part of me just says, man, like, does he have the answer though? Like, did he just realize, holy shit, got to change some stuff? I think, you know, like, just let me go for a walk and see what I can come up with. Like, maybe I should have put Mo on the sideline. So I don't know. That's the thing. You hope that this is a sign that certain things are going to change. We're going to see more changes. I think, you know, we've seen some changes on the field. We've seen, you know, like, you know, Fabinho getting benched and stuff like that, like some moves being made. We're almost trying a bit more different things than maybe we did before. But injuries, and now we have Thiago again out for, like, you know, that's no surprise to anybody at this point, because I think we've been talking about it for weeks over here, that it was imminent that he was going to get injured again, because he was putting in so many minutes. But I think, you know, this was my fear all along. You know, we said, oh, like, once we get to end of February, beginning of March, he's going to be back. He's going to be back. He's going to be back. But I knew, and I think any Liverpool fan by this point knows, by the time that happens, there will be other people gone anyway, so we're never going to be, you know, like full force, if you will. But I do like the fact that, yes, he's admitting, and he's kind of like taking it head on almost, that there is an issue and he has to address it, and this is a new challenge compared to what we had before. I mean, the media is always going to be media, right? Like, when, you know, they like building you up so they can start tearing you down. While they're tearing you down, they start building the other one up, and then they just jump back and forth. I think we see it here too. You see it over there. I think it's even stronger over there, because over here, let's say if you're the Chicago media, I mean, we're both in Chicago, you know, you can be like, you know what, let's have a go at the Bulls. And then, you know, they're like, oh, man, the bullshit is getting on. What the fuck are Blackhawks doing? Let's go out, look at them, you know. So they can change alleys, whereas back in Europe, I mean, it's basically you go at...
It's hyperfixation on one thing all the time. And when you have so much attention to one thing, there's going to be a lot that comes out of it. And there's going to be a lot of people who say a lot of things. And some will be true, some will not be true. But all of that is out there, and that's what it is. It's just so much attention and so much fixation on the one thing, because you're right, there is nothing else for them to pivot to. You know, there is no other sport that's big enough to compete. Here, there are arguably 3 sports that compete with each other. You've got basketball, football, baseball, and given whatever during the year, whatever time it is, all 3 could compete against each other. You know, during the winter, it's mostly basketball and football, but just like you said, there's different things. When you listen to or watch morning sports shows in the States, they'll cover like 4 or 5 different sports and different topics. If you listen to something, you know, in England, they're just going to cover the Premier League and then maybe the championship, which is also football. Like, there might be a hint of rugby or something in there, but nothing, not to the level that we see here with the spread of the media. Like you see, yeah, you're right. I agree.
Yeah, speaking of rugby, we know Jamie's into me. He says, "Happy Monday, Reds. Let's hope we're still happy at 90 minutes." Yeah, let's hope so. It's these games are kind of. I mean, we talked about it last week. It almost has like a preseason mode to it. I know the Champions League is getting close. I almost feel like the weekend results. I mean, I was going to go to this game and say like, let's see what happens, kind of like last week. But the weekend results, it's almost like everything you think you're out, they suck you right back in, because with all the points lost, you're like, there's that glimmer of hope again that, hey, if we're going to run, we're still like in this thing for the top 4 and all that. But let's hope that doesn't come crashing down.
It's a very toxic relationship that you have with someone. You hurt me all these times, but you want me back for a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
But the good times were so good. Liverpool is so good and bad. Okay, let's go to your headline there.
I think so. This just broke about an hour or 2 hours ago. This was just posted on Twitter of footballer Jakub Jankto, and he's a player that plays for Sparta Prague and for the Czech national team. And he came out as being gay, which I know, people might look at it and go, well, I mean, why do we have to do this every single time someone does it? Because we haven't gotten to a point where it's comfortable enough to talk about it without having to worry about anything. Like we can sit here, we have this here that we're looking at, but we know that there's going to be so much abuse that he faces from even his own fans, from his own country, from opposing fans, chants, whatever the case might be. And this is why we still have to do this. I mean, this is one of probably the most highest profile active playing footballers, male footballers, I'd say, to come out. And so I think this is a really big deal when we look at it. And I know it's going to take some time still to get to the point where like, oh, he's gay, so what? Because that's where we want to get to, right? That's always the goal is. And I know people will say, we don't care about personal lives, but if this is something that is you're dealing with as a footballer that makes it more difficult to do your job on an everyday basis because you can't happily be yourself because you feel like there's something that needs to be, that you need to admit because there's this weight on your chest, this could be so freeing for someone, especially as someone in such a big place, right? In the community of the sport. So I know that it's not, the biggest thing in the world and not the biggest headline this week, but it is something that's important to realize that it is something that we need to appreciate. We need to acknowledge it, right? We don't need to spend hours on it. I know there was like maybe 10 years ago, this would get a lot more traction. There would be a lot more conversation. Yeah. Now it's like, hey, that's cool. Great. Who's next, kind of. And then eventually, hopefully in 5 years, we go, oh yeah, okay, that's just another one. Yeah, that's fine. Keep going. That's where we want to be. So I think that's the heart of what I was going to say there is it shouldn't matter, but it does because it's supposed to matter right now, but it shouldn't matter in the future. Kind of.
I actually thought it was kind of gutsy because, I mean, not the stereotype, but this stuff is a lot more challenging in Eastern Europe and stuff like, I mean, they get a lot more abuse there in this area. I feel like them, not that they wouldn't, like, for example, it was in the UK or something like that, but based on overall what you see in terms of like chants and stuff like that, you would think it would be even worse in Eastern Europe. I think so. Why do you think? I mean, first of all, you have to be like too naive to think that there are not a lot more other players that are basically could be gay and not saying anything. Why? I mean, do you think those players don't say anything because they don't? Because here's the thing. Now, this guy is going to get attention based solely on that.
Right.
So he has not become. He's not a soccer player anymore. He's a gay guy playing soccer. So he, you know what I mean? Like he's gonna like when it comes to media and stuff like that, and when it comes to the team, do you think like people don't say anything or so that they just don't get the over the top attention? They don't bring the attention to the rest of the team because now there are microphones running around to every freaking player on the team, asking him questions on this and stuff like that. So it's nothing like soccer related now. Do you think like people are, because they don't want that attention, they're like, you know what, I'll be me and I'll keep playing? So is it like a relief, you think, or is it almost like worse in some cases?
I think it really is a case by case basis, right? Because we're all so different. I think people handle their things differently as well. If there is, you know, if there is someone who is gay but who doesn't feel comfortable saying it because they don't want that attention for that exact reason, then they're going to be able to play through it and not necessarily worry about it as much, because that's not what's bringing them down. In this case, this might be a situation where this was something that was really bringing him down day-to-day basis. Like, he wasn't able to perform at his highest level because of the feelings that he felt about not being able to express who he really was, because he wasn't comfortable going to work every day and not being himself. You know, like, he wanted to be the best version of himself. And if that means getting the heat of the media or the flack of the media, or then, you know, because the team came out with a statement saying that the players and the manager and the management, they all support him. So I imagine this was something that was said to the team before, right? This isn't something that like, oh, hey, by the way, did you see?
Did you hear?
Did you see Jakub's video? Like, what? No, this is one of those things where he probably, you know, he there was probably a close teammate friend of his that he came out to first and said, hey, this is what's going on. And then, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know what the process was like, but in my mind, I would think that, you know, he comfortably comes out to who he needs to come out to in the locker room, feels more comfortable than to tell the entire team. And the entire team goes, okay, we're comfortable. If you want to put this out there, let's do it. And let's, you know, we'll take the heat for this for you if you want to do it. Because we don't know if there's that part of it where the team was like, we back you, we support you, do whatever you need to do, and we will be here and we won't care, right? Whereas sometimes maybe the opposite, if you have a team that's not very supportive, and you are that kind of person who doesn't have any confidence in the locker room that you can go to, then that can be really damaging, and you don't want to do this thing because then there will be too much attention. So I think it's a case by case basis.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, and I do agree, but there's always that one dude who missed the meeting, you know, like it happens at work too. Like, he wasn't there Monday and he comes in on Wednesday. He's like, what the hell, dude? There was a huge ordeal on Monday, the meeting and stuff. Yeah, but I would think, yeah, based on that statement too, I got the same thing. Like, they did not get blindsided by the news and they knew what's coming. And that kind of, I think, helps everybody involved. I mean, the club, the other players, and the player himself. So, and probably makes it a lot easier for the players in the locker room. Like I said, that microphone running around asking everybody is going to be like what he just said, you know, like when you just talk to the other player, what the left back say is going to be the same thing as what the right back says, kind of a deal. So, but yeah, it is kind of odd, and it's kind of like naive to not think that, you know, there are definitely a lot more other players playing with that pressure and not saying anything about it. And yeah, it just, you would think it's just too silly at this point, but sadly, I do understand where sometimes those players come from, because like you're saying, it does change person to person, and some people just don't want that attention. They'd rather not have the attention and just keep it to themselves and stuff. So, hold on. Kazi has not slept. He has butterflies. We just have to win. See, don't do that to yourself and us as well. Not only to yourself, but us as well. Because, yeah, honestly, like on Friday, like when we did the Friday morning show, I was more like, whatever happens, happens. It is and I know, like, for somebody like Kazi, for example, it's a lot more about, I mean, the derby means a lot more. It is the biggest game. Whereas, like, I always find, and we talked about this on the show before, like the United game, a bigger game for me. And I think that all goes back to, you know, like growing up in Istanbul, like those derby games mean a lot, not only because of the 3 points and stuff like that, but the bragging rights and the nonstop hearing about it more than anything else makes these games bigger. So I can see why a dude like Kazi would not sleep, because, yeah, this is like the last thing you want right now. Is a poor result against a struggling Everton. And I know they're on the new manager smell going, but at the same time, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, injuries, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee you, when the lineups come up and we do our pregame show, when you look at our 11, you're still going to feel, man, this 11 definitely is potentially a lot better than Everton's 11. It's just a matter of, like, will they play like that? or not. So, and I think it all goes back to, I mean, it's good to hear like Jota is in, hopefully, I'm assuming he'll be on the bench for this one. But at
Could
least
see like
the
30 minutes,
possibility
yeah.
to bring somebody in. It says the biggest game, perfect game for us to get our mojo back. And yeah, that's the thing. It got bigger because they lost points. On Friday, I was like, whatever. And then every time I look at a different score over the weekend, I'm like, God dang it. The only game I really kind of sort of watched was the City game this weekend. Kind of tried to do with all the birthday festivities and stuff, tried to do kind of like a non-soccer weekend as much as possible aside from FIFA. But yeah, it kind of like sucked us back in there. Hopefully we'll get the result we need at the end. What else you got? I see another like share there.
So yeah, we can prop this up if we want to. This is a
that's just a
that's
huge
just
me
you.
that nobody
Hello.
wants to see. Yeah, that's an even bigger me.
I
There
did
we
it.
go.
I was able to do it. Okay. So this is, I don't know if you saw this from the
It happens every Monday where there's like the coffee doesn't kick in for you for like a 10-second period of like a brain fart. So
yeah, it's just a letter about the Flag Day. I don't know why I was okay, whatever. Anyway, I don't know. I can't zoom. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Look at that. Okay. I figured we don't need to spend that much time on this because, what else are we going to talk about? The VAR fucking up like they do every single week. Like it's ridiculous at this point. What else is there to be said about VAR? It's just human error. The human error is the ref. The VAR is supposed to correct that. But anyway,
yes.
So this came out, and there's a lot of good in here, right, about wanting to increase the atmosphere. But this kind of goes back to what we were talking about. It was either last week or 2 weeks ago about the growing commercialization of the sport and the growing fan base and how more fans are going to be going to this game that are not from Liverpool, they're not local, right? So part of this, while I feel like most of the letter hits well, there is a part of here where it says, the atmosphere is dropping during the games, lack of songs and creativity, etc. And they say, here with ongoing issue with being able to keep the atmosphere up because of tourists and because of corporate. And it's like, I understand that there's frustration in wanting to get the most out of the crowd as much as possible. But this goes back, and I was going to get your thoughts on this, on how, how can this sort of thing be managed or fixed when the team has grown so much, has become such a global team that there are going to be people that come from around the world. Like, are you not going to allow anyone outside of England to buy a ticket to come to a game? Where are the lines drawn in this? If you were the VAR referee on this, and and you didn't see Norgard, let's say you did see Norgard, where would you draw the line in this sort of situation?
I don't know if there's a line to be drawn in terms of like fan. You're not going. Here's the thing. I mean, and I know, over here, obviously they want to initially blame the guys that are coming in as like, the tourist or whatever. But in most cases, somebody is selling their freaking ticket. First of all, you're never going to be able to stop that because I might have a season ticket and I'm not going to be able to go. I mean, are the season ticket holders saying like, no, I'll rather sell it for £50 to a local guy, or do they want to freaking like get 4 times the money and sell it to a tourist desperate and will pay anything to be able to go to a game because they came to Anfield with no tickets, or they're at Liverpool, they have no ticket and they will love to go to a game and stuff. So I think this almost becomes like this is like not a familiar issue to me, like when it comes to a team like Fenerbahce and stuff like that, because they don't have as big of a global appeal. But I mean, is the ratio of tourist to local or tourist to a regular game goer that bad that they can blame the lack of atmosphere for like 3 guys sitting in the middle who might not know the song? Isn't it easier to get those guys to get in the song than bitch about them coming to the game in the first place? Because you're not stopping the ladder. So I think it's a lot smarter. If I'm them, you can bitch and moan all you want. How are you going to stop that? You're not going to stop the tickets being sold to others. And this all goes back to what we talked about. You can't keep a club local but want the global income. That shit does not work. I mean, if that's what you want, go support a smaller club that doesn't have a global appeal. And then, but then don't bitch about money. You can't take the tourist money into the club, but not let them come in and watch the game that they spend money on, like the club that they spend money on. I feel like this is more of a, I mean, racist is probably like too strong of a word, but like kind of like try to keep it to us, like us against them kind of a deal more than anything else. Because I don't know if there's two dudes over there from Turkey or we're there from the US, you know, if you say, you know, if you make us belong, right? It's going to be a lot easier for us to come like sing with you and get, because we're there for the fucking atmosphere. I mean, if you're over there from like the States, you're there for the atmosphere. You're not there to, yeah, you're going to have your phone out to, you know, soak it in or something like that. But you are there for the atmosphere. You want to be a part of the atmosphere. That's why you spent freaking thousands of dollars to get there in the first place. So I feel like it's a lot easier to involve those people as opposed to just like bitch about them and hope that they go away, because they're not going to go away.
Yeah, I feel like then that's what my big issue was. It was just, I think the intention behind the raising the atmosphere is good. It's just the delivery of it is not good, because as you were saying, the ratio of people who are there as they call them day trippers and tourists compared to fans isn't high enough to drown out the noise of the other fans. And we've heard from opposing, at least I've read from opposing fans all the time on the internet saying how Anfield's just always a library anyway. You know, so this isn't a new problem either. This has happened in the past. This is not something that, you know, even back before the big great success, you know, a couple of years ago, and back when you could still maybe say 8-9 years ago, there were still the same sort of rumblings about it not being loud. And so I think it's just a little frustrating to see that it, again, like you're saying, it's turning out to be an us versus them, when it should be an all of us for us, not us versus them. So it's yes, I get that,
and I it's unfortunate. I mean, but we see this shits over, you know, in like freaking simple as like Facebook groups and stuff, where you know it's like that. Oh, you wouldn't understand it and stuff. Okay, well then fucking explain it. Like, you know, if you feel like I can explain, if you can't understand something, I'm gonna try to explain it to you at least. But it sounds somehow cooler or more special to say, like we posted like a clip, right? A YouTube channel, which you should subscribe to if you have not. Why the hell not? But and it was regarding, it was actually about Pep. If we thought like Pep knew or not, I think it's me and Bickler talking about it, and it was like a 50-second short on YouTube. And there's a dude over there who came in and commented, I bet they have never watched a British game. So do you really think, are you really this fucking stupid and ignorant that you think we would sit down and do a podcast about a game that we never watched? Or and then, you know, are you not even listening to what we're saying, because we're saying stuff? I mean, I know it could be like one of the 5 City fans that I referred to in that clip. Maybe he's a City fan, he got offended I said there were only 5 fans or something. But either way, like there's a lot of that, right? Like the moment, you know, we get a lot of it, and we've talked about, I'll be honest, like, you know, I started the site way back in the day, and we've had conversations throughout at times about, do we change the name? Because people think we're all American, which, you know, I'm not, but you know, it's more like an American, and we've had to explain it on the side what we mean by American Scouser and stuff. And then we kind of were like, hey, you know, we're going to get this all the time from fans that, you know, us against them kind of fans. We're going to get this backlash all the time. But we've always decided against giving into that ignorance. And I still feel like that is ignorance. Is it probably annoying? I mean, Kazi and Alan and those guys probably... Yeah, Zaid says 6. Maybe he got pissed because he was the 6th one, and I didn't mention him. I left it at 5. That
they have that group. They all know each other by name.
They're at the table. They're like, 1, 2, 3. Get your hand out, Joe. Type it up. Tell him. So, I mean, I think it's mostly like that, like the ignorance and stuff. And we were like, hey, you know, like we're not going to give into that. But it is unfortunate that it's always us against them. And like I say, like Kazi, Allen and stuff, they can probably like tell us more. I'm sure it's frustrating to be a fan and not be able to go to the game, or not be able to afford to be able to go to the game and stuff. Because, you know, that ticket is going to a tourist and stuff. But it's all about money at the end. Be mad at the guy selling that. It's not like the club is allocating, you know, like 30,000 tickets to tourists or something like that. That's not what's happening here. There's only so many hospitality tickets and all that kind of stuff. This is a lot of people selling their own tickets to tourists and stuff for money. So be mad at that guy as opposed to the guy coming in, welcome to the guy that coming in, because he probably spent 4 times what you did to get there. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, if I hear all the time, there was where was it? It was a Miami Heat basketball game. There was a family that flew from Argentina to see Jimmy Butler play, and they brought a sign and everything. And before the game, they found out that Jimmy Butler wasn't going to play because, you know, the NBA likes to rest its players because there's too many relevant games. But different conversation for a different day. And so the team got news of that story, you know, and everyone absolutely loved the story. They talked about how amazing it was that this family would take this trip. It'd take, 3,000 miles to come see this person they want to see. And I feel like sometimes I wish that we were regarded the same way, because as you said, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to be able, and that's the other thing, is it takes a lot of time to be able to fly from the States over there, to be able to be there long enough to make it worth it, and enjoy it. Like, you're not gonna see someone fly over there for one game and then fly right back, because that is going to be the most expensive trip of your entire life when you factor in time. So I think, like you were saying, there's a lot of money that has gone back into Liverpool because of us. And I think part of that has to be appreciated, and it's not something to be slagged off just because the atmosphere kind of sucks sometimes. That's on you guys. That's not on us.
And that's another thing. I was watching the Super Bowl yesterday, and I don't know if you caught this, but like they were like, all around Europe, there's like watch parties and stuff, right? So NFL bragging about like people in Germany, freaking like 3 a.m, like watching
doing the Chiefs, like
yeah. And my brother only made it till halftime. He didn't even make it to Rihanna, but and only because his son wanted to watch it, but they couldn't. It was like 4 a.m. or something. There, it's like I can barely stay, and they're not even getting the commercial. So in between the game, they're just passing out over there. But so. You can't, on one hand, it's the same thing with the NFL. Then you can't get that tourist over here from Germany and be like, "What the fuck you doing over here?" Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you
wrong football, dumbass.
They're like, "Just send us the money. We don't care if you come." It's like, send nudes. I mean, I just don't get the double standard that these fans. I mean, that post by itself basically screams double standard, and I think it's so odd that they will put that double standard on paper and basically publish it and brag about it and not see the big picture. It does get kind of annoying. And I don't know, I've never been in that situation. I don't think you get that over here. Maybe it's not as hard to get the tickets. Like I say, if you went to a Bulls game and you saw like 4 people from Romania, are you going to be like, you're taking away seats from actual Bulls fans? Like, you wouldn't give a damn.
Well, there's no atmosphere in American sports to begin with, so that's a different issue, because no one really cares about the atmosphere in the sports here, and especially talking about Bulls games because we're from Chicago here, it would appear a lot of the 100 level tickets, which is the tickets that are closest to the court, they're all bought by people who have the money to buy them, not necessarily the biggest fans. If you want the real biggest fans of the team. They're all the way up in the 300 level.
They're like watching like this,
and they're still spending $100 sometimes for tickets up there. And they're the loudest. They're the ones that want to have the most fun. But you don't get that atmosphere because they're all the way up there. All the people that are right next to the court spending thousands of dollars for those seats, they're just there because they can be, not because they're necessarily a big fan. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people with a lot of money that are big fans of the sport and big fans of the team that go and watch it. But if you were to take that away and make it more accessible for the everyday fan. Chicago has 2 million people. You think they couldn't fill a Bulls game with 25,000 people that actually love the team and want to root for the team? Like, you're out of your mind if you think they can't.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to the atmosphere, and that's why here we wouldn't care. Like, we wouldn't even notice. And that's another thing. It's just like, I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's just so different.
It is. Well, it's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there was like, I don't know if you saw this, but in like a Lakers game, like this little girl and her brother or whatever,
sitting right next to him.
Like sitting and LeBron next to them. They were like, "Oh, such a great story." I'm like, you guys realize that little girl is sitting on a chair that, most of us will never be able to probably afford or, have as explainable income to go to a game. That seats over there. Was it a home game? Was it a Lakers home game? Because that's probably like 3 times more than any other game. I want to say it was. I can't remember.
I thought it wasn't because I think the Lakers' home bench is on the left side and you're looking at the court. I don't think it was.
Yeah, I can't remember, but either way, like I was like, I mean, it's cute, but is it really? I mean, that seats we're not going to be able to. None of us are going to probably be able to afford. So, Golden State. So
It was
yeah.
at Golden
So
State. Yeah,
either way, it's like a ridiculously expensive seat
yeah.
anyway.
That's not much cheaper to begin with. I mean, that's still
Well, especially when
ridiculous.
it's the Lakers game. I mean, even
Yeah.
though it was
Oh
the
yeah.
Bulls, like if they play Grizzlies, it's a lot easier to get a
Well,
ticket.
I don't know, man. The Grizzlies are good this year. It's like
Let's not get into an
the
NBA conversation.
Spurs. I don't know.
Oh, okay, there we go. Spurs. They were good back in the day, Popovich. But yeah, I mean, like but when Lakers come in, those tickets like freaking like triple, quadruple in price and stuff too. But
Yep.
yeah, I think the whole atmosphere thing. See, like we gotta get Kazi on more to talk about that because I'm sure it's frustration to local fans. But I think blaming the atmosphere. So are you telling me last year or 2 years ago when that place was rocking, like there were no foreigners in that Barcelona game? Is that what
Not
you're
a
telling me?
single
Nope,
tourist.
they were all locals. They were all locals. So
Because none of them were selling their Champions League semifinal tickets for a little bit more than what they paid for. No way. No way.
yeah, and that's why I call bullshit on that one. I think this is more like, yeah, we can't get the atmosphere going. It's the damn foreigners, like I mean, it's in any country when something goes wrong, they're like, it's not us, it's somebody else, it's them. Blame the foreigners. So, will you be joining us for the pregame?
Yes, I will be here.
All right, then I'm not gonna even get your prediction.
No, yeah, you don't want my prediction.
Kazi will probably get you once your prediction, but yeah, Zaid says you can get Manchester City tickets in cereal boxes. I want to kind of like get to that too, but we'll leave it for another day, like all Pep's comments and this whole investigation thing, because I kind of knew they would come out and Pep would get into be the rare underdog and be like, it's us against, like how, after every freaking NBA and NFL victory, they're like, nobody believed in us. Really? Because you guys were the 3-point favorites. Like, it's like nobody ever gave us a chance except people in the locker room.
Yeah, it's like, if there are any NFL fans or whatever, if you watched the game yesterday after the game, Travis Kelce had this persecution complex. Like, none of you guys believed in us. We're the Kansas City Chiefs. What? Like, you were maybe the second most likely best odds to win the Super Bowl in the beginning of the season behind the Bills or something like that? You really think no one believed in you? It's ridiculous.
I'm like, dude, nobody has been talking nothing but you and your freaking brother for the last 2 weeks. You think you're not getting enough respect? Put some respect. Yeah, that's when I was like off. I'm like, back to Call of Duty.
3 weeks ago, is Travis Kelce one of the best tight ends of all time? No one's put any respect on my name. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was like the tipping point for me because, like, it's the initial, okay, like they're talking to that guy. Yeah, when he started like screaming at the microphone about like, oh, the respects and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, time for Call of Duty to shoot people. Where's that sniper rifle? Kind of an ordeal. That's where I headed afterwards. Well, we'll call the morning for now. Grumpy's empty. I know your mug is never empty.
Never empty. But we'll leave you with this here. This is just a little screenshot of someone on the platform Reddit who was scrolling through, and they had a little advertisement underneath this article of Pep Guardiola talking about the Steven Gerrard slip. And as you can see, is this peanut was made to be roasted. It's the most perfect juxtaposition in the history of the world. So leave you with that glorious picture. This peanut was made to be roasted because
this is the topic I want to talk about, like where he's talking about like Liverpool, like the
even in 10th place, still living rent free in this man's head.
Yeah, like why would you bring up that?
He wasn't even there.
Yeah, I was like, that was like a topic I wanted to get to, but that's one for another day because I'm sure this is gonna go on sadly for a while. But yeah, and then we'll roast that peanuts in our next episode over here. But we'll be back about like 30 minutes before kickoff, about like 20 to 30 minutes after the lineup comes up. We'll get our predictions. A bunch of our contributors will hop on off. Join us with your predictions and comments. Grab a camera. You can jump around, jump in on the show as well. And then we'll be back right afterwards with the post-match. And obviously we have the podcast tonight with the boys. So we'll see you guys then. Thanks for joining. Hit a like, share, all that kind of good stuff. And then we'll see you guys before the game for the pre-match. Have a great Monday. Until the game at least. So.